On the heels of a podcast we published last week about the lack of interest to Gen Z in joining up in the army, there was one comment on the comments board that really stuck out at me. Amongst the fighting for oligarchs and other people's wars comments, a one-line question by at Henry Agincourt, sorry, simply asked, "Fighting for a flag I'm not allowed to fly?" That struck a chord with me and made me think. A country that is trying to ban the image of its own national flag on its own national soil can't be a country. It has no identity. It has no meaning. So what is there left to defend? Remember a few years ago, Emily Thornberry, she ridiculed Dan Wave, I think his name is, from Rochester in Kent, called him the White Van Man because he had three St. George's crosses hanging from his windows outside of his house. And of course, this was driven home even more plainly for me by that article that you sent me about the jigsaw manufacturer, which had to remove the English national flag and a group of Morris dancers from an image before it could be even considered to be used as a picture of a jigsaw puzzle. I mean, why call England England anymore? It isn't surprising that the British armed forces are in decline.
Yeah.
It seems that there is a similar situation in France, albeit for different reasons. France, which is over twice the size as the UK, has even fewer than the 104,000 British troops, coming in with 69,000 active service members. They do have others, like
Yeah.
those in the reserves and
Yeah.
the older
Yeah.
guys. But
Yes.
we're talking
Yes.
about the active. Macron recently said, "We have given everything. We have given away everything that we have. We can't give away what we don't have, and we can't strip ourselves of what is necessary for our own security." He was, of course, talking about giving everything to Ukraine. Right?
Yeah.
So that alone is basically saying he's backed himself into a corner for defense, not even with wriggle room for more defense spending,
Mm.
with the country's deficit this year at 5.8% and a public debt of 110% of GDP. That's more than what the wealth of the country is going to earn
Yeah.
this year. Germany, for its part, is pretty much in the same boat, having one and a half times more territory than the UK, but just over half of many soldiers that than Great Britain that are ready for active service. So it comes as no surprise that these three nations are going to do what Nigel Farage warned about, and Nick Clegg vehemently denied saying it would never happen. Remember that debate?
Yeah.
And they're gonna form an EU armed forces. Right? Even Germany, going to bring in conscription.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
Cool.
Of course, they didn't call it that, the EU armed services,
Uh,
as when they floated the idea of a European fighting force, Italy, Spain, and I think Poland rejected the idea. So let's just call it an extra-official coalition of armies to be training and preparing for war on the mainland of Europe. They aren't even bothered to try to fly the NATO flag. They're going rogue,
mm.
so to speak, cobbling together a larger force from three failing forces. They claim it's a show of strength, which to me looks more like a show of weakness by the individual states. And they also say it's to make Russia think twice about invading Western Europe. Considering that Russia has sent 600,000 troops to the Finnish border recently for some reason, I'm not too sure. Putin is all that worried. I'm not sure he is. The plans are set to be unveiled later this month in London in a meeting between Foreign Secretary David "I don't do runners from taxes" Lammy and EU High Representative Kaja Kallas.
Right.
They,
Well, okay. Right. Just by coincidence, I don't normally do props here. Just by coincidence, I happen to be wearing my
Well done.
patriotic. Yes. Yeah, I mean, being an expat, I'm probably more patriotic than a lot around here because you do, without realizing it, you do collect some things the minute you see a British flag or something somewhere. Hey, I'm gonna have that. That's unusual. Um, yeah. Right. I Yeah, I mean, I saw that remark as well. And I know you responded to it, and it's absolutely right. And I sent you the article. Yeah, it's one of a jigsaw. Yeah, an artist who does jigsaws, been working for this family firm for 25 years. Suddenly, he was told to remove off one of his images, yeah, the British flag, the Union flag. Yeah, Union Jack or Union flag. Yeah,
It
in
was the
case it might.
English. It was the St George's Cross. It was on top of the castle.
I was essentially with trust, yeah. But yeah, it's still an icon of Englishness or Britishness, whatever. Yeah,
Englishness. English. Very
Englishness.
English.
Yeah, and also, yeah, and the other one about the Morris dancing is somebody in their organisation thought they were the Irish Orangemen. So these people aren't necessarily they're ignorant. Ignorance is what I'm going to just call it. I'll call it what it is. It's ignorance. Yeah. Um,
They don't understand British culture themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, we English, we need to change English and Britishness quite a lot. And yeah, I've explained to my clients sometimes. Yeah, we're a little bit strange like that, or not strange. Yeah. Um. Okay. Now, this thing about this European-wide military. I mean, there are exercises already done with our European colleagues. Let's just say across Europe. Yeah, partners, whatever label they want to put on it. Yeah, that already happens. Okay. Um, Now, if you talk to a lot of people, and okay, there might be people who trip me up here. I'm not an former ex forces person. As I said, I nearly joined once, but I do know people. Um, the only probably real credible forces across Europe will be France and Poland at this time as actual military countries. Yeah, it's like you said, the rest are cobbled together. Probably have weekends off. Yeah, things like this. Yeah. Um, I mean, yeah, when you talk about French, the French that we'll say this, despite the reputation, we always get the French of running away. They are tough military people. You don't want to mix it with them. Yeah, they are patriotic.
Well, they include the Foreign Legion in their ranks.
Well, a lot of the Foreign Legion are British and others, but an Australian, believe it or not. Yeah,
But they count them. They
yeah.
count them.
Oh, they're tough people. I mean, they get involved where there are hard peacekeeping requirements around the world. It's sending the Foreign Legion. They are guys that want to be there for various different reasons.
They
And
want to forget the guys going there. They want
yeah,
to
well, that's
forget.
it.
You go to the
Jesting.
Foreign Legion to forget.
Yeah, jest and everything. Yeah, well, you get a new identity and French citizenship. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But by God, you have to earn your stripes there. Um, yeah, it is a the whole thing is a bit of a joke. Now, this thing about Putin sending troops to the Finnish border. Yeah. Um, I mean, Putin plays games as well. Let's just remember it. He has a Russian sense of humor. He plays the Russian game. Yeah, they've always done that. Yeah,
Reflect.
yeah. And it's like,
Reflect.
oh, yeah. When they like the Russians like fly close to the international border, and then they give the the pilots that they all give each other an ironic wave. Yeah, that's unofficial, but I've heard that they give each other an ironic wave, and then go off again. Yeah, and yeah, again with Navy vessels. Yeah, there's some mooning going on and everything else, but yeah, seamen are seamen. Ultimately, they have a bit of mutual respect for each other. Yeah, because yeah, they have a tough life. Yeah, and it's a little bit of a joke with each other. Um, I think one of the most interesting videos again. It's not it was an American ship where the Russians have worked out the technology to jam the auto protection and bust the switched off, basically jammed the self defense on the ship's capabilities and just buzzed the ship. Yeah. I mean, the Russians aren't backward. Yeah. Um, I really can't get to the logic, and this is it. I'm going to apply logic here. Okay. I'm going to imagine that Putin is a hard but sane leader. Okay. I'm going to go with this logic at the moment. What possible reason would he have for invading anywhere outside Eastern Europe? Okay, let's imagine his mindset is he still sees Eastern Europe as some sort of autonomous
US,
states with,
USSR.
well, yeah, that's it. Yeah, he's still of that mindset. Okay, I'm going to go with that. Okay, I don't agree with him, but okay, let's say that. I do not see him as wanting anything else in Europe. There is nothing for him. What if okay, if Russia decided to invade Europe, okay, so like they went into Finland and they've got Finland within 2 days, okay, in my opinion, yeah. I'm not a strategist and probably yeah, okay, but let's just say as stands, he could go into Finland, get it in 2 days, yeah. That's more of a headache for him then at that point, okay. He's got the Polish up here who could turn on him, who are chomping at the bit, yeah. Um, he's got then he'd have to supply the country and everything else. Yeah. Okay. Go through the weakest thing. He's a strategist. Okay. He hasn't quite taken Ukraine in the way you would have hoped. Um, I wouldn't say it's a disappointment, but that's probably a big surprise for me, which again leads to my thing. Why would he even consider invading the rest of Europe at the moment if he can't take one country that's disorganized as well? Yeah. Um, I just can't find the logic of why we need to protect ourselves strongly against Russia. I'm not saying they're not a threat. What I'm saying is outside Eastern Europe, I can't see what the threat is. Yeah. Um,
I really don't see that, there's no evidence that
mm,
Russia is planning to invade anywhere near Western Europe.
no.
Uh, you know, however, the Western Europeans, they seem to want the political
Mm.
branch of the Western Europeans seem to think that, they've got to make him a bogeyman, and, for some reason. And I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if it's their reason to be. I don't know if it's they have to point a finger at someone to blame for all their woes. You know,
Well, um,
I mean, the energy costs in Germany, they're blaming on Russia when it
well,
was them that when it,
yeah,
when it was them that put the embargo on Russian gas,
yeah.
and they were warned about it by Trump some years ago.
Well, of course they were, but that's been conveniently forgotten.
Yeah,
Um,
well, that's why we're here.
yeah. Well, okay, yeah. I mean, I remember seeing the footage, and I do show it to people sometimes. Okay, whatever you may or may not think of the 47th president of the US when he was the 45th, he said
Yeah,
this and got
yeah,
laughed at.
that's right.
And
I mean, what the hardships being created in Western Europe
mm,
are Western Europeans'
well,
doings.
exactly, yeah, we know that. Well, you and I know that. Um, maybe we're just able to join the dots somehow. Um, I
Well,
mean,
because what using our sort of lemmy, if you like,
yeah,
we're on the outside looking in, and
yeah,
when you're on the inside trying to work things out, you don't always see everything that we do
yeah. Well, yeah,
from a perspective that where we are.
yeah. I mean, yes, we struggle here, but yes, we can see what's happening in the world global view, and we get access to probably media that's being blocked
Yeah,
across Europe as well.
that's
Okay,
right.
if you like, we get the perceived enemies media here, which should make some interesting reading sometimes. I saw a video from one this morning. It was hilariously funny. A parody of the meeting, the free meeting, the meeting of the three on the train, where they had white powder around their mouths. It was hilariously funny. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's obviously yeah a comedy. Um,
They
yeah,
were on the TGV,
yeah, yeah,
that high speed train.
yeah. That's it. Speed on the speed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah. Again, okay, we can mock and all that, and anyone that's sort of having to go about Russia mock. Russia mocking our Western leaders. Don't forget, we have comedy programs that mock Russians as well. So fair is fair. Yeah. You play to your domestic audience with that score. Um, it is a. I'm not saying don't be worried about Russia, but they're hardly being brought to their knees. Actually plays into Putin's mindset to be seen as this with his own people as to being feared. Yeah, which would be a Russian way. He wants to appear a strong leader. He doesn't have to work very hard. He's already got his script writers working for him in Western Europe. Yeah. Um, they were when it said, "Oh, Russia's not a problem and all that. We're winning the war in Ukraine, but he's going to invade next week. He's going to invade Western Europe next week." Which one is it, guys? Which narrative is the real one? Um, if he can't even take Ukraine, given what we believe about it, how's he going to be able to put together any military force to actually go and march into Finland? In fact, and don't forget, it's just not the minute you get troops across the border, that's when your problems begin militarily, as people that have invaded Russia have found out in the past.
Well, look, I don't think Russia wants Ukraine.
No.
Russia just wants the eastern part,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
the, the Donetsk region,
mm,
and also the Crimea.
yeah, yeah. Well,
And that's why they haven't advanced any further than they have.
well, yeah,
They they're trying to consolidate these regions.
well, yeah, and that's sort of. I mean, yeah, they did try and take Kiev out in the beginning. Obviously, you'd attack the capital of a country if you're invading somewhere else. They tried something there. Yeah, they thought that would make the Ukrainians capitulate at least. Yeah, um, it's a strategy that didn't pay off. Um,
Yeah, I
but
don't think he expected all the rest of the world to send arms to the Ukraine.
well, yeah, that was probably yeah, well, yeah, we probably thought if they're scared of me invading, they'd probably be keeping them themselves, which is where we are now with it all. Yeah, I mean, either he's the luckiest leader alive, or he's one of the best strategists strategists ever. Um, it's yeah, but because I was saying it, using the logic these leaders are trying to tell us, okay, he invades, let's say he goes into Finland. Yeah. He's now got to supply his own people in Finland. He's got to keep the infrastructure of Finland going for his own people.
It's not going to enter it. I don't think he's going to
No,
get
he's
into
not
Finland.
going to, but I'm just sort of saying, using if we're going to use the logic that he's going to attack, that our Western leaders are, we then have to look at it. What would that be for the Russians? Um, he would have to keep supply lines going. He's still got a conflict happening in Ukraine at the moment. Yeah. And that's what we're sort of saying. He's going to fulfill his objectives in Ukraine within the next couple of months, and then he becomes a threat then. Yeah. I'm
Let,
only
let's
trying to think of the logic behind it all.
okay, let's try and draw this back to the main point of
Yeah.
this thing about England
Yeah.
not being allowed to fly their
Mm.
own flag.
Well, yeah.
You know, uh, I, I, I think the rot setting, to be quite honest, the rot setting for because it isn't a recent thing.
No.
You know, it isn't a recent thing. Capitulating to foreign foreign people
Mm.
rather rather than
Well,
being who you are, I think
yeah.
is I think England's been, or the UK has been hollowed out from the inside.
Yeah. I mean, I remember years ago. Oh, that we you mustn't fabric. Yeah, there were different reasons. Now, this notion of flying the flag. Yeah, it's not when I was younger. Oh, you mustn't do that because you were getting associated with um, extreme right wing organisations. What's our flag? Yeah. Um, yeah. When in 1982, the British proudly flew the flag over Port Stanley when they took the Falklands back. Yeah, that's okay. When a bit of pride came back into the military. but that again. Um, but yes, just I remember in the late 70s there was a little bit of a um all this thing about not upsetting other people of other ethnic minorities. Yeah. And I remember it when I was quite young. Um, but it is strange, yes, because we're now you're now allowed to fly um yeah, the Ukrainian flag even on churches in the UK. And I thought that was a bit weird. Um,
Fly
you know,
Palestinian flags. You can fly rainbow flags,
yeah,
and it's just getting a bit too.
yeah, you're now considered racist if you fly your own flag, or you're considered homophobic or something else if you fly the British flag, which, um, I'm not against people supporting whichever cause they want and everything else, but we're in the UK. When police are arresting, okay, people for holding up a flag in London streets, the British flag in the London streets, no wonder you're going to get a reaction and you are inviting trouble. Um, now,
Remember in the other podcast we did the other day, when somebody annoys you, it gets past the stage of them complaining about you,
mm,
then they just ignore you. They just turn their back and ignore you.
well, I think that's what's
But
happening. Yeah.
yeah, I think it's a good chance that that's what's happening in England, in the
Well,
UK.
well, actually, I saw a march in London where there were loads and loads of people carrying the Union flag, and it didn't make it on the BBC. It didn't make it onto Sky. It didn't make it onto CNN. It made it onto, I think it made it onto GB News. I'm not sure, but it certainly there was a lot of private YouTube channels that were showing it. Yeah, and we're not just talking about 10 people. We were probably talking about 5,000 people. Yeah, marching along the London street, waving the Union flag. Um, I can't understand that when has actually waving your own flag been seen as a protest? It shouldn't be seen as a protest. Um, what I do find interesting, you go to these rallies or the rallies there are, and people are proud of identity. You got the Union flag, and then you've got the Israeli flag, yeah, which again, okay, have a view on that, and then you've got the Irish flag. I never thought in my lifetime I would see the British Union flag, the flag of St George, which is essentially the same, but yeah, and the Irish tricolour all being waved next to each other, because they had a common cause. That is the most incredible thing I have seen in recent years. Yeah. Where they're marching, where you get the Union flag and the tricolour being marched down Irish streets side by side. Okay, they had their own internal problems. Now they're getting external problems. Both sides are united. You know, they don't mind having a dust up between themselves over what they consider identity. When you're trying to take people's identity away from each other, yeah, then they become a common cause. Um, okay, it's only a flag, but yeah, I mean, I've objected if somebody started to carry a swastika.
It's what the symbol
Yeah, the
means.
symbol. Yeah, that's it. It's
All
the
the
meaning
history
behind.
behind it,
Yeah,
how long it's been the flag, and
yeah.
why it's
Okay.
the flag, and
Yeah,
it's just a flag.